Hey guys, welcome back to Tea Garden. We're going to do something a little different tonight, as you'll see. We're going to have a discussion or info dump or what have you on some of the things that I think about spirit work. So that is what I'm going to focus on tonight. It's probably not going to be a hugely long thing, but we're trying something a little different. So, let's see how it goes. All right, enjoy. So, I'm going to talk a little bit about spirit work. I've been doing spirit work for, let me think. Well, from one iteration to another, probably 20 some years, I've been doing some form of spirit work. And it's everything from like angels to animistic spirits, dealing with a few things that were unpleasant, dealing with some ghosts / dead people. There's a full gamut. So I'm going to be speaking from my experiences and the things I've experienced, the things I've read, and the place I'm from at this point in my life, in my journey. So I have some points to read, and we'll go over that. All right, first off, what is spirit work? Well, it's connecting with, honoring, and developing a mutually beneficial relationship with spirits. What is a spirit? Well, a spirit, as I define it, is any non-corporeal being, including, but not limited to, the dead, animistic spirits, angels, non-deity spirits, which can get a little bit iffy, that definition. I consider non-deity spirits like basically beings similar to deities, but that are not classified as deities, such as angels. Or like in the Egyptian pantheon, we have Netcheri instead of Netcher. Netcher being gods, Netcheri being a lesser being, kind of like how we call all the kami in Shinto kami, even if some are more like what we might consider deities, and others are more like spirits. So that kind of thing. It's not entirely a deity, but it's not a deity in a traditional sense. Kind of a mixture. All right, so that's what I define a spirit as. So, why work with spirits? It really depends on what you want to do. If some people feel called to work with spirits, also it depends on the spirit. Maybe a spirit approaches you. Maybe you have a haunted house. Maybe some other thing has happened to you and you want to get to the bottom of it and you want to develop some skills around this work. And again, it depends on what you want to do, what you feel called to do, and if it's a necessity in your life to work with spirits. So how do you work with them? It depends on the spirit. As I said, I consider spirit work honoring, developing the relationships with spirits that are mutually beneficial relationships. So you get something, they get something. It should be equal, it should be respectful, and there should be almost a friendship that develops, hopefully, in this working. I do know of spirit workers who have not happy relationships with the spirits. I know spirit workers who have very detached connections to their spirits. So it just depends on the spirits and who you're working with and how you're working with them. So what kind of things could you get out of a mutually beneficial relationship? Well, spirits can help protect your home, protect you. They can also be knowledgeable and teach you things that they know. Like, I learned how to do visual meditation, journeying, as I call it, and things like that from spirits. I also learned some different skills about working with spirits from spirits. They can also provide you some aid, like if you're needing something, if you need something, like maybe your finances could use some boosting, or maybe there's different avenues around your finances that you haven't looked at, or that wouldn't even occur to you. You're just getting an outside perspective, basically saying, hey, this could use some work. I don't know how to make it better. I just need it to increase and need some increase into it so that we can be more comfortable, or I can be more comfortable. So that kind of aid is something that you can ask for. What they receive from you should be of equal value. Now, I'm not saying give away your house. I'm not saying sell your soul. That would be bad. So what I'm saying is that what they want, from what I've found in my life, what spirits want in general, is something they desire: attention, gifts, resources, different things that might not be as valuable to you but are valuable to them. They might want, if you're an artist, they might want you to paint them a picture. If you're a writer, they might want you to make them poems. It really is dependent on what you can give them and what they'll ask for. Now, discerning what they ask for, that might come later, but just developing this idea of, I can give you 10 minutes every day to talk, to read something, to light a candle, to burn incense, or give an offering, or whatever else. Just having something you can dedicate to them or give to them is usually enough to start a good relationship. All right. And this leads into, how do you begin spirit work? The first thing I always say is research. Research. Learning, reading, getting to know everything you can about the spirits you want to work with. So there are millions of different types of spirits out there. Like, for as long as we've had imaginations as a species, spirits have cropped up. Everything from animistic spirits to messenger spirits of deities to the dead to all kinds of things. So research. Know what you want to connect with. Know the cultures they come from. Know the mythologies surrounding these things. Know everything you can about them. That's a part of your safety protocols, is knowing what you're getting yourself into. And maybe in your research you find out, hey, that's not for me. And that's fine. Move on. Find something else. Find what is for you if this is still something you want to do. I'm going back to my points now. Research the different paths that approach or connect with these spirits that you're interested in. Now, as far as different paths and cultures and things, there are many resources out there on different paths that connect to different spirits in different ways. So I encourage you to look into them. As I said, there are thousands, millions of different spirits connected to many different paths, and each path has a different way of approaching them. So learning what you can and cannot do, learning the things that you can and cannot connect with, or ways, techniques that you can and cannot do, all of that is important, and all of them are valid. There's, again, so many paths out there to connect to many different spirits. And finding the right path in your spiritual journey is something that is people strive for. As far as spirit work is concerned, it just depends on the spirits you want to work with. Learn where they come from. Learn where they are. Learn all about them. Safety protocol. Number 1, research. All right. As far as connecting to a spirit, once you research the ones you like, know their mythologies, their folklores, their everything about them. What they like, what they don't like, all of it. Some very, very basic things you can do to begin the relationship is as follows. Figure out who or what you want to work with. Number 1. Check. Figure out why you want to work with them. Substance is key for this. Having super cool experiences is not the most powerful case to persuade a being to build a relationship with you. It's not as dissimilar with people. If you just want to have super cool experiences, there are things out there, that will give you that just for that. But as with building a relationship with anyone, they want to invest in you and you want to persuade them to invest in you. And that means, maybe you need help. Maybe you want to learn something. Maybe you want to establish a connection with your land spirit, or you want to connect with your ancestors, or anything else like that. Find the underlying meaning of what you want. Find the thing that you really want out of these relationships. Maybe you feel a strong need to have a protection somewhere in your house, or have a friend that helps you out with stuff. I don't know. That is completely personal. But just with real living things in this world, people in this world, they are more likely to work with you and want to connect with you if there is substance to your motivations. So that's the next thing. Okay, check. Now, make no mistake, these bonds take time and effort to foster. Just like all relationships, both parties need to have motivation to put in that effort. So please do that. That's a like 50 different notes on that specific factor. All right. Once those factors are ironed out, set up a time and place to meet. Commonly, this is an altar or shrine one sets up for the work or in honor of the spirit you want to work with. So, many polytheists, pagans, they all know, setting up an altar, that's the thing they do. Even just setting up a space where you can meditate. Light a candle. Set out a cup of tea for both of you. That's a good thing. That's a simple thing you can do. It doesn't have to be permanent. It can be temporary. It can be just, use your kitchen if you need to. Just set up a time and place to meet. It can be out in nature. You can go to your favorite tree. It can be inside your home, setting up something temporary, anything. So some of the things you can do to begin the process to kind of trigger that meeting or set that space up is light a candle, optional of course. Set out an offering, like a cup of tea or a small food to eat together. And then address the spirit specifically, such as, I call upon the great wolf spirit. Hail Archangel Raphael. Or I call to my ancestors. Specific spirits. Once your guest has been invited, you just start talking. Some of the different things I would talk about. You talk about what you would like from this relationship. You talk about what you are willing to give in return for what you want. It can be really simple what you give or really complex. Time and effort, offerings, all of that is important and valuable. So those are things you can give. Next, you mention any goals you have in mind, such as healing you want or skills you're hoping to develop. So go back over this again. What you want for this relationship, what you're willing to give in return for the things you get, and some of the goals you really want to achieve, maybe in long term over time. Then talk until you have laid everything out. Lay out anything you feel is relevant to the conversation, anything you think would be useful in helping both of you get to know each other and helping really outline your plan for how you get to where you want to go and things like that. All right. Usually, this is where you can stop and wrap things up after you've laid everything out, saying thanks and farewells before cleaning up. And that's great for the first couple meetings. Now, some people, after the first few meetings, they'll use this time to meditate, journey, or do divination, different things like that. Or even if you're into different techniques with the spirit, or you've learned some different things that you can apply to this time, working perhaps that you'll want to do with the spirit, anything like that. This is when you do it. Now, in the first 1 or 2 meetings, just talking is a good start. Letting both parties get to know one another. Now, divination can come later as you seek to know or confirm information from the spirit. So, if you're like saying, you're setting out a cup of tea offering for the spirit and be like, hey, do you like this? Maybe you pull out oracle cards or tarot cards or some form of divination and go, oh, they really do like this, or oops, they really don't. And is there anything you prefer? And you iron out what they like and what they don't. And that's just part of getting to know each other. Like a good guest who comes into your space for the first 1 or 2 times is not going to insult what you give them. They're going to be grateful for what you give them, usually if they're courteous, and go, oh, this is great. And then by the second time, they'll be like, it's fine. I would like something else. So again, it parallels people relationships. So I'm going to go over some of my points that are called words of caution. So some of the things I've found in my experiences that I've had to learn, honestly, that have come up. So the first one being, your mental health can greatly impact the connection you try to create with spirits. There are many times in my life where depression and anxiety have gotten in the way of clearly discerning messages that I feel like I've gotten, or they've gotten in the way of imagery in my journeys or my visualizations, in which something stops my fear or my depression or whatever else interferes with the things I am inspired to see or things I feel. Try to cultivate a healthy mental state as often as possible when working with spirits. So always aim for being in a good place mentally before you begin your work with spirits. And if you have, say, you want to do a working overabundance with the spirits, but you feel depressed, wait for it. Just wait. Wait until later. Until you can get to a place where you can feel okay. And then start working. Like if you're working towards something really positive like that, especially, try to be in a good place before you deal with it. Because our brains are subtle machines, and throw one small thing that can make them unhappy into the mix, it can mess you up. So yeah, try to cultivate a healthy mental state before working with spirits, specifically on a thing. All right. Next caution. Some spirits are not as benevolent as others. There are unhappy and violent and angry things out there. Always be able to protect yourself, your home, and your company, whoever is in your vicinity, your family, whoever. And as mentioned before, different paths, different spiritualities, different religions. They all have different ways of dealing with these kinds of spirits. They all have different ways of protecting themselves and their people. So please, please, please research. Find a path that walks that way, the same way you do. And if they have a way of dealing with spirits, great. If they don't, there are many techniques out there. Protect yourself. Protect your company. Protect your home. Always address an invitation to a specific spirit. Releasing an open invitation for your life out into the world is dangerous. You never know what kind of spirit could show up at your door. And then another point, you have more power than you think. Have confidence in yourself when dealing with spirits. You're the one with a corporeal body. You're the one that has power to send them away if you are uncomfortable or feel unsafe. Use that and have confidence in yourself. Now, we talked about many different types of paths out there that deal with different types of spirits. So this is a general word of caution when you're researching and exploring the different techniques and paths. Be aware of what cultural appropriation is and never do it. Just a general rule of thumb. Respect the practices and cultures of others. Some spirits are specific to specific cultures. Be sure you know where your limits are and respect the closed practices of others. Any food offerings you give to the spirits can be poured or left on the land, as long as they will not harm flora or fauna. So this comes more from the fact that generally you don't want to eat after the dead or death aspect things. Mostly dead though. So if you're giving offerings to your ancestors, please don't eat that. Because what they're doing is taking from it and leaving death energy behind, and you don't want that in your life. You don't want to intake that into a living body. Complications. But also things like some paths out there, some religions, spiritualities, and paths, they say not to eat after the spirits or gods or whatever. So, again, path specific. Look into it, research where you're going. I'll already covered that. All right, so those are my words of caution. I can't think of any else right now, but those are the basic ones I've come about. So now what? Well, with that, you go out and you live your life, Not everyone feels called to work with spirits, and that is fine. You do not have to work with spirits. There was a time where I only worked with angels for the first 7 to 8 years of my path, and that's fine. But then my path shifted. And I still worked with angels. They were still a good companion spirit, but I moved past it. And then about 15 years into it, I was like, hey, this isn't for me anymore. I respect it, and I still adore the spirits I worked with, but I'm moving on to something else. And that was fine. What I've come to understand about relationships in general, both living and non-corporeal, is that everything has a season. And sometimes spirits will come in and out of your life, and sometimes people will come in and out of your life. And that's fine. But we cultivate positive relationships wherever we can. And that is my little talk on spirit work. Let me see if there's anything after this. Oh. There is one more thing. I was bad about that. Let me make sure there's not anything after that. Alright. There is something else. My bad. Should you feel the call to develop a few skills to help smooth the way forward in your spirit work, the ones I suggest developing on your own are meditation and journeying, divination, discernment, which is basically, I'm not sure my community knows about discernment, the communities I move through, but not everyone does. Discernment is basically being aware of the thoughts and feelings that are you and the thoughts and feelings that are not you, that you're getting externally. So the belief being that you are always getting signals, not always, but like you get signals from deities, from spirits, from ancestors about things you experience in your life and messages, you're getting those, and you want to figure out what's you, so you know that what's not you are messages, and process those and figure out the feelings that you're getting. And a lot of people call discernment or things associated with this kind of stuff a God phone or spirit phone or whatever else. That's fine. Call it whatever you want. You're basically trying to interpret information, but it's basically, where you start and stop and where the external information begins and ends. Very basic. Not everyone has great discernment. It can be developed, but it takes a long time because it's a very subtle thing to try and figure out. All right, next skill, learn mindfulness. To be present in your moment. This is great for like meditation, but also just being present in the moment, not letting yourself get overly worried about the future or the past. Being present and mindful in the moment allows you the opportunity to better receive that information, that data that comes in for your discernment. But also, it gives you a moment to be present in the world. All right, which leads into the last one of developing gratitude, being grateful for the things in life and being grateful for the blessings that we receive, the relationships we create and maintain, all of it. So the last three, discernment, mindfulness, and gratefulness, or gratitude, those are all things that kind of feed into each other. When you are mindful and present, it is easier to discern the things that are you and that are not you. When you are grateful, you swell. That's a good word. You swell with this feeling from your chest outward of contentment and peace. And it doesn't have to last forever. It can last a few minutes, but it helps to be present. Honestly, when I am grateful, I am very present in my moment, and I'm very mindful of the things that are happening at that moment. So they kind of feed into each other. All right. And that was the last of my points. As I said, this is just a very, very basic, broad talk on spirit work. There are much more specific resources out there for you. So it's just dependent on which spirits you want to get to know, which path you want to walk. And, not every space is for everyone. Not every path is for everyone. So go out and read, learn, know what you want to get into. And again, maybe spirit work is not for you, and that's 100% fine. But, never hurts to learn a little bit in case anything ever crops up. And if you're in a situation like a haunted house, or you're being bugged by the fairy, or fae, or anything else like that, talk to people. Get help. You don't have to be the one to deal with it alone. Find people and resources out there for you. All right, with that, I'm done. I'm wrapping up. And I hope you've enjoyed this little talk of mine. All right. Remember to like and subscribe. And I will talk to y'all later. Bye.